The woman sleeping with my husband was showing two strangers where they could exchange vows when I came home. At the time, I only knew her as a well-dressed trespasser holding a clipboard on my terrace. She stood beneath my pergola while a couple measured the wall for a champagne display. Another couple leaned over the glass railing, discussing sunset photographs. My mother-in-law, Vivian, welcomed everyone with a tray of sparkling water. Then a city inspector raised his camera toward the service lane 6 floors below. His screen caught a copper-colored car parked beside a rental van, its rear hatch open beneath the Laurel House logo, Daniel's car. He had called me that morning from a supposed job site near Harrisburg. He'd complained about traffic, promised to bring home coffee beans from the roaster he liked, and said he would be gone until Friday. It was Tuesday. Claire. Vivian said my name the way someone might warn a guest that the floor was wet. "You're early." I still had my hospital badge clipped to my jacket. "I live here." The woman with the clipboard smiled as though I had made a joke that required patience. She was striking without looking arranged. Dark hair tucked behind one ear, cream pants, red loafers, gold hoop small enough to imply restraint. Her brochure used the same font as the name printed across the rental van downstairs, Laurel House Private Celebrations. On the cover was my terrace, my pergola, my glass railing, my blue ceramic lemon pot placed artfully in the foreground. The photograph had been taken at night with candles on my table. "Are you with the building?" one of the prospective clients asked me. Before I could answer, the woman extended her hand. "Laurel Voss, owner and creative director." Owner of what? Laurel House. She gave the terrace a soft, encompassing gesture. One of the couples looked from her to me. The man held a little tape measure shaped like a tire. His partner was writing numbers on the back of Laurel's brochure. I stared at Vivian. Why are strangers measuring my wall? "They're not strangers," Vivian said. "They're potential clients." "Whose clients?" Laurel's smile tightened half an inch. "Why don't we step inside?" She moved toward my living room door. I blocked it. The inspector lowered his camera. He was a square-built man with close-cropped gray hair and a city identification card hanging from his neck. "Ma'am, are you the property representative?" "I'm the property owner." The silence arrived in layers. The tire-shaped tape measure snapped shut. Vivian set down her tray. "Claire, this is exactly why we wanted to speak to you before." "Before I came home?" "You weren't supposed to be home until 7. That isn't an answer." One of the prospective clients folded her arms. "Laurel, you said this was your venue." "It is my venue," Laurel said. "It's my terrace," I said. The client's gaze dropped to the brochure. Her face changed as she read something near the bottom. Laurel exhaled through her nose. "There's been a communication problem within the family. I'm sorry you're seeing it." Within the family. She spoke as if I were a difficult aunt who had wandered into a rehearsal dinner. Vivian touched my elbow. I pulled away before I could decide whether I wanted to. Her fingers stayed suspended between us. "Daniel agreed," she said quietly. The inspector looked toward the lane again, then at me. "Daniel Bennett?" I felt the name in my ribs. "Why do you know my husband?" "He's listed as the site contact." Laurel turned sharply. "That was only for loading access." "Loading access to my home?" I asked. Vivian stepped between us, though I couldn't tell whom she meant to protect. "Everyone is getting overheated. Claire has had a long shift. Why don't we reschedule the tour?" I didn't have a long shift. I switched with Rita because the sterilizer repair got moved. I looked at the couples. "I'm sorry you came here under false pretenses. There will be no events on this terrace." The woman holding the brochure went pale. "We paid a deposit." The man beside her said, "Mara." "What?" "We did." "How much?" I asked. Laurel cut in. "That is confidential." $6,000, Mara said, "for October 17th. The second couple began talking at once. Their date was in November. Their deposit was $3,000 because they had selected a weekday. Vivian pressed both hands to her cheeks, smearing one spot of pink lipstick near her jaw. "It's refundable," she said. "Of course it's refundable." Laurel looked at her. "Vivian." That one word told me they had rehearsed everything except me. I took out my phone and called Daniel. He answered on the fourth ring with road noise behind him. "Hey, sweetheart. Everything okay?" No one had called me sweetheart in years with less affection. "Where are you?" "Outside Lancaster." "Why?" I walked to the railing and looked down. The copper car was still there, bright as a dropped penny. Daniel had restored it himself, spending 18 months and more money than he admitted on a 1974 BMW that stalled in rain and smelled permanently of upholstery glue. "Your car is outside Lancaster?" There was a pause. The road noise continued with mechanical regularity, exactly the same hiss and rumble repeating beneath his breathing. "Mom borrowed it." Vivian closed her eyes. "For what?" "She had errands." "She drove your vintage BMW to run errands." "Claire, can we not do this while I'm on the highway?" The inspector glanced at my phone. I put Daniel on speaker. "You're listed as the contact for a commercial venue operating out of our terrace." The repeating road sound stopped. Not faded, stopped. A pre-recorded track, cut off by a thumb. Daniel cleared his throat. "It's not a commercial venue." Mara held up the brochure. "I have a contract that says otherwise." "Who is that?" he asked. "One of Laurel's clients." Another pause, more alive this time. "Listen," he said, "it's one open house. Laurel needed photographs, and Mom thought—" "Your mother thought she owned my condo? I thought you'd be reasonable." Laurel looked away toward the skyline. My heart was beating hard, but the rest of me felt bizarrely precise. I could see a water ring on the teak table, a missing bolt on the inspector's clipboard, a crushed mint leaf stuck to Vivian's shoe. "What did you tell Laurel she could use?" I asked. "We'll talk when I get home." "You told me you were in Harrisburg." "I'll explain." "What did you tell her?" He hung up. The inspector gave me the embarrassed expression of a man who had accidentally opened a bathroom door. "I'm going to need to document that access lane and the proposed occupancy area. After that, I'll leave you with my card." "Laurel," Vivian whispered, "can't you just refund them?" "We have vendor commitments." "We?" I asked. Vivian drew herself up. It was an old reflex. She had survived widowhood, 2 knee replacements, and 20 years of women cutting ahead of her at church rummage sales. Her dignity was usually indestructible. "I was trying to help," she said. "This terrace sits empty most of the week. It's wasteful." "It's my home, and Daniel's." The words landed harder because she said them without cruelty. To Vivian, marriage had always meant that what belonged to one person became available to whichever relative needed it most. Her late husband had financed his brother's plumbing company from their retirement savings. She described the bankruptcy as an act of loyalty. "This was going to bring in real money," she continued. "Daniel's business has been slow. You know that." "I know because I pay his shop insurance." Vivian flinched. Laurel slid her clipboard into a leather tote. "This is not the right environment for a productive discussion." "You mean my terrace?" "I mean hostility." She started toward the living room again. I stayed in front of the door. "Use the service stairs." "The elevator is through the apartment." "The stairs aren't." Her pleasantness finally broke. "My samples are inside." I looked through the glass doors. My living room had been rearranged. The sofa was turned toward the windows. My grandmother's walnut console had become a beverage station draped in white linen. Boxes labeled Laurel House filled the corner where Daniel kept his record player. "How long have you been using this place?" She didn't answer. Vivian said, "Only a few weeks." Laurel shot her a look. That was my first useful answer. The couples gathered their things. Mara handed me the brochure as she passed. "You might want this," she said. "The website has more pictures." Her partner touched her back, steering her gently through my living room. The other couple followed. They avoided looking at me, which was worse than anger. I was the woman standing inside the beautiful venue they had imagined, ruining it by existing. At the door, Mara stopped. She called herself the owner every time we talked. Laurel heard her. "Ownership and operation are separate concepts," she said. Mara laughed once, without humor. "Put that in the refund email." The city inspector finished photographing the terrace entrances and asked me for my contact information. His name was Kenneth Ruiz. He spoke quietly while Laurel and Vivian packed glassware behind us. "Was this inspection scheduled?" I asked. "Requested by Ms. Voss for preliminary occupancy review. She represented that the owner had approved the use. I didn't. I'll note that." He turned his camera so I could confirm the exterior access point. The image showed the lane, the rental van, Daniel's BMW, and several stacks of folded white chairs. The hatch of Daniel's car was open. Inside were cardboard tubes, table linens, and a box of brochures. Something small and brass hung from the zipper of a canvas bag. I leaned closer. The image was sharp enough to show a scratched rectangle with one crooked word stamped into it. Home. "Can you send me that photograph?" Ruiz studied my face. "It'll be attached to the report. That tag belongs to me." Downstairs, a car door slammed. I crossed the terrace and looked over the railing. Daniel's BMW pulled out of the lane so fast one of the stacked chairs rocked in its cart. I couldn't see the driver through the trees. Ruiz raised his camera again and caught the car turning onto the street. Laurel was beside me now, her perfume warm and woody in the afternoon heat. Daniel said Vivian could borrow it. Daniel says a lot of things. She examined me with an intimacy that felt wrong, not curiosity, assessment, as if she already knew which of my silences meant fatigue and which meant danger. "I understand this is surprising," she said. I looked at her red loafers, the linen tote, the small gold hoops. On her right wrist was a braided brown cord with a silver clasp. Daniel wore a cord just like it. He had told me a craftsman at the Lancaster job site made it. "Get out," I said. For the first time, Laurel obeyed without trying to improve my tone. Vivian stayed behind. She removed the linen from my grandmother's console and folded it with nervous care. She gathered half-empty glasses, rinsed them, and lined them beside the sink. It was what she always did after family dinners, moving through my kitchen as naturally as she moved through her own. "I never wanted you to walk in like that," she said. "But you wanted it to happen. It was supposed to be presented properly." Presented how? With projections, a revenue plan. Daniel made a spreadsheet. Of course he had. Daniel loved spreadsheets that converted other people's sacrifices into potential. Vivian dried the glasses. "Laurel believes she can book 24 events next year. Laurel believes she owns my terrace. She's ambitious. She lied to those people. She oversold. There's a difference." I picked up the blue ceramic saucer from beneath the lemon pot. The soil was dry enough to pull away from the rim. Someone had moved the tree to improve the photographs and never moved it back beneath the irrigation line. The little brass tag was gone from the branch where it had hung for 8 years. Daniel had stamped it the weekend he moved in. He had borrowed my smallest hammer and worked on the kitchen floor, laughing when the letters came out uneven. We had tied it to the lemon tree with green ribbon because the condo still felt too pristine, too much like a purchase, and not enough like a life. I had thought it meant he was choosing this place with me. Now it had been photographed inside his car, attached to another woman's bag. "Did you give Laurel a key?" I asked. Vivian concentrated on a spot on the glass in her hand. Daniel handled access. "Did you give her a key?" She needed to meet vendors. I crossed the kitchen and opened the shallow drawer beside the refrigerator. The spare Terrace key lay where it always did, attached to a plain steel ring. It looked untouched. Then I lifted it and saw the fresh, bright groove cut along one edge. A duplicate had been made recently. Vivian set down the glass. "Claire, please don't make decisions while you're angry." "I'm not angry yet." That frightened her. I could see it in the way she backed away from the counter. Her phone lit up beside the sink. A message preview appeared before she turned it face down. "Daniel, keep her there. I need 20 minutes." Vivian covered the phone with her palm. From somewhere below us came the low, uneven growl of the BMW circling the block. Daniel wasn't outside Lancaster. He wasn't even on his way home. He had been close enough to watch strangers walk through my front door, close enough to drive away when I recognized his car, and for reasons I did not yet understand, he needed his mother to keep me from leaving my own terrace. The elevator chimed behind Vivian. She reached for my wrist. I stepped aside and her hand closed on air. "Claire, wait." Daniel came through the living room with his car keys in one hand and his phone in the other. His shirt clung damply between his shoulders. He had changed into a blue button-down, but one cuff was rolled higher than the other, and there was a streak of black grease near his elbow. He stopped when he saw Kenneth Ruiz still packing his camera. "What's he doing here?" Ruiz zipped his case. "Finishing an inspection you were listed as the contact for." "I didn't request an inspection. Laurel Voss did." Daniel looked at Vivian. She shook her head once, quickly, like someone answering a question at gunpoint. Ruiz handed me his card. "You should receive the preliminary report tomorrow. It won't be a permit or a citation, just findings from today and a record of what was represented to us." Daniel stepped toward him. "I'd appreciate it if you held off sending anything until we clear up the ownership issue." "There is no ownership issue," I said. Daniel's eyes moved to mine. Ruiz gave him a polite, exhausted smile. "That's not something I clear up." He left through the apartment. The elevator doors closed, and the three of us stood in the kitchen listening to its cables hum. Daniel put his keys on the counter. "Can we sit down?" "You were driving the car." "I came back early." "You were downstairs when I called." "I was trying to avoid making a bad situation worse." "You played highway noise into the phone." His mouth opened, then closed. Vivian frowned at him. "You did what?" Now, it was a stupid decision. It was surprisingly prepared for a stupid decision. He rubbed both hands over his face. The braided cord circled his right wrist, brown with a silver clasp. I could smell his cedar soap from several feet away. He had showered somewhere before coming upstairs. "Claire," he said, "I know how this looks." That sentence should be illegal. Under any other circumstances, he would have laughed. His mouth almost did it from habit before he stopped himself. Vivian sat on one of the counter stools. "The car was mine today. Daniel had offered it because mine is in the shop. It wasn't you driving." "No," she admitted. Daniel picked up his keys and closed his fist around them. "I moved the car after Laurel texted that you were upset. You were already downstairs. I had come by to drop off materials. For the open house you knew nothing about?" "I never said I knew nothing about it." "You said your mother borrowed the car to run errands." I panicked. I looked at him. Why? That was the question he did not have prepared. His face softened instead. Daniel could do that without seeming calculated. He had a mobile, expressive face that made every feeling look newly discovered. It had once been one of the things I loved most about him. "Because I knew you'd hear it as me giving something of yours away," he said, "and that isn't what this was. You gave Laurel access to my home, our home. There it was, gentle and reasonable." I picked up the brochure Mara had left. On the back, beneath a watercolor skyline, a paragraph described Laurel House Terrace as an intimate urban venue, held in private ownership by a family committed to meaningful gatherings. "Which family is that?" Daniel glanced at the brochure. Marketing language. "It says she owns it. It says private ownership. She introduced herself as the owner. That's Laurel's mistake." Vivian stared down at the grout between the kitchen tiles. I held the brochure toward her. "Did she call herself the owner in front of you before today?" "She may have said something similar. And you welcome people anyway." "She operates the business," Vivian said. "In that context, owner could mean..." She took $6,000 from Mara. I didn't know the exact figures, Daniel interrupted. Mom was doing me a favor. Vivian looked up. He continued before either of us could speak. I asked her to host the tours because I couldn't be here. She didn't create the brochure. She didn't handle the deposits. Don't put this on her. I'm not putting it on anyone. You two keep picking it up. He paced to the windows, then back. My shop had a rough spring. You know that. Laurel plans events for clients who hire cabinet makers, florists, caterers. She has connections. I built display walls for 2 of her jobs. We started talking. We, professionally. I looked at his bracelet. He folded his arms, covering it. Her concept was to use private spaces that sit vacant most of the time, he said. Low overhead, high-end experience. She offered us a percentage. Us? You and me. Did you tell her I agreed? I told her I would talk to you. After she took deposits. She wasn't supposed to take deposits yet. Vivian spoke quietly. Daniel, you told us Claire would say yes once she saw the projections. His jaw tightened. I said I thought she would. No, Vivian said. You were very definite. The shift was small, but it was the first time she moved away from him. Daniel gave her a look I had seen him use on subcontractors who discussed prices in front of clients. This isn't helping. Vivian's shoulders stiffened. I laid the brochure on the counter. Where is the home tag? He didn't blink. What tag? The brass tag from the lemon tree? I have no idea. It was inside your car. How could you possibly see that from up here? The inspector photographed it. His gaze flicked toward the terrace. Vivian said, Laurel may have used it for styling. She liked the lettering. It was attached to a bag in Daniel's trunk. Then she left it in the car, he said. I'll get it back. I waited. Daniel spread his hands. What do you want me to say? The truth would be efficient. I have told you the truth. Then why does it keep changing? The phone under Vivian's palm buzzed again. She flinched and turned it over. Laurel's name appeared this time. Daniel reached for it. Vivian pulled it against her chest. It's my phone. Then answer it. I don't want to. He stared at her long enough that she slid off the stool and gathered her purse. I'm going home, she said. Your car is in the shop, he reminded her. I can call a cab. I'll drive you. I said I can call a cab. She walked toward the elevator. At the doors, she looked back at me. I'm sorry about the way today happened. The apology was shaped around the day, not the thing she had done, but I could see it cost her something. The elevator took her down. Daniel waited until the floor indicator reached 1. She really did think she was helping. I believe that. She likes Laurel. I believe that too. She doesn't have many things that make her feel useful anymore. Then take her to dinner. Don't turn her into the hostess at my counterfeit event venue. He sat on the stool she had left and rested his head in his hands. The posture was familiar. I had seen it during tax season, after his father's funeral, when a restaurant returned a wall of cabinets because the stain looked different under their lighting. It usually activated something in me. I would lower my voice, make coffee, begin sorting the problem into columns. I stood where I was. After a while, he said, I hate that you carry so much. I looked toward the dry lemon tree. I hate that I let you, he continued. I thought this could be one thing I brought to us. The venue could clear maybe $80,000 the first year after costs. You built a revenue plan around something you didn't have permission to use. I wanted to show you a complete idea. Every time I bring you a rough idea, you find the holes, because the holes usually have my credit card at the bottom. He looked up. Pain moved across his face, followed by anger so quickly I might have imagined the pain. That's unfair. Is it? Yes, I work. I know you work. You say it like I'm a hobby you fund. I didn't say that. You don't have to. He walked into the living room and began turning the furniture back. He lifted one end of the sofa, dragged it across the rug, stopped when it caught, then kicked the corner free. Don't damage the floor. He laughed under his breath. There she is. Who? The operations director, everything in its assigned square. My furniture was in its assigned square until your business partner moved it. She isn't my business partner. What is she? He gripped the sofa arm. A client, he said. The pause before it was small enough to deny and large enough to live in. I went into the bedroom and locked the door. Daniel knocked once about an hour later. I ordered Thai. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten since this morning. He was right, which annoyed me more than it should have. I got the green curry you like. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing my hospital clothes. My phone was open to the Laurel House website. The Terrace appeared on every page. There were photographs of dinner tables beneath strings of lights I'd never seen, close-ups of cocktails on my grandmother's console, a smiling chef plating food in my kitchen. In one gallery, 6 women in silk dresses raised glasses beside the lemon tree. The event date embedded in the image file was a Saturday in May, when Daniel and I had gone to Vivian's for lunch. He'd complained of a migraine and left early. The website's availability calendar showed 9 dates marked unavailable. 2 had already passed. I opened our joint credit card statement. The search bar found 4 charges containing the word Laurel, a printing company, a linen rental service, a web designer, a wine distributor. Together they totaled a little over $7,300. The green curry smell came under the bedroom door. Claire, Daniel said, please. I opened another statement. There were payments from Daniel's business account covering most of the charges, but the payments came several weeks later after my hospital salary had already paid the card balance. He had been floating Laurel's launch with our household cash and replacing it when he could, or when she could. I saved every statement as a PDF and sent the files to my private email. Then I changed the password. When I opened the bedroom door, Daniel was sitting on the floor beside 2 takeout containers. He looked tired and unexpectedly young. His bracelet was gone. I'm sorry, he said. For what? All of it. That's broad. I'm sorry I lied about Harrisburg. I'm sorry I let Laurel move ahead. I'm sorry I made Mom part of it. I'm sorry you walked in and felt like a stranger in your own home. It was the first accurate thing he had said. I sat against the opposite wall. He passed me the green curry and a plastic fork. For 10 minutes, we ate on the floor without speaking. Then he said, "Nothing has happened with Laurel." I hadn't asked. He watched me absorb the sentence. "She flirts," he said. "That's how she is. It means nothing." "Did she make your bracelet?" He looked at his bare wrist. "She gave them to everyone who worked the Fallon event. She was wearing one. So were the florist and the sound guy. You told me a craftsman made it." The bracelets were handmade by a craftsman at the Lancaster job site. He stared into his noodles. "I didn't want you to read into a gift from a woman you'd never met." "You mean the woman using my kitchen?" He closed his carton. "I'll end the whole thing tomorrow," he said. "She'll refund the deposits. I'll get the keys back. Mom will never host another tour. Give me 1 day to clean this up without destroying relationships we may still need." "We?" "My business may still need." "Fine. Me." He reached across the space between us and set his hand beside mine, not touching it. "Please don't decide what this means tonight." I wanted to lean the 3 inches necessary to rest my head against his shoulder. That was the humiliating truth beneath all the others. 8 years did not disappear because a brochure told me I was foolish. My body still recognized him as the person beside whom it could stop bracing. His phone rang in the living room. Laurel's name flashed on the screen. Daniel stood too quickly. "I'll tell her now." He carried the phone onto the terrace and pulled the glass door shut. I could see his mouth moving through the glass, his free hand pressing against the back of his neck. His face was turned away from me. My own phone buzzed. It was an automated message from the company that cleaned Vivian's apartment twice a month, confirming Friday's visit. The card on file belonged to me. I opened the account and canceled the service. Then I logged into our household card and removed Daniel's cabinet shop as an authorized payment source. His business expenses would no longer clear against my available balance. On the terrace, he was still talking. The lemon tree's leaves trembled in the air from the vent, dull and curling at the edges. I filled the watering can and carried it outside. Daniel lowered his voice as I approached. "All right," he said into the phone. "I'll figure out access." He saw me and ended the call. "I thought you were ending it." "I am." "Who needs access?" He slipped the phone into his pocket. "No one." A notification appeared on my screen before I could answer. It came from the building's resident portal. Daniel Bennett has requested temporary authorization for rooftop service entry. Request forwarded to management. He saw me reading it. His expression changed. Not guilt this time. Calculation. Temporary authorization for what? Daniel looked at the watering can in my hand instead of my face. "Laurel has equipment downstairs. The city guy photographed it. It has to be removed. Then she can remove it through the lane she used to bring it in. That lane requires service authorization. She had authorization today. It expired at 6. I opened the resident portal and denied his request. His phone buzzed almost immediately. "Seriously? You said you were ending it. I am trying to get her property out of here. You were trying to figure out access before I walked outside." He pushed the terrace door open. "You know what, Claire? Keep the linen, keep the chairs. Put them in one of your assigned squares." He went inside and slept in the guest room. At 7 the next morning, someone named Paul Denning called from the condo management office. I knew Paul by sight, mostly as a navy blazer moving through the lobby with a coffee cup. "Your husband asked me to approve a temporary service entry," he said. "I gather there was a misunderstanding yesterday. There was an unlicensed business operating from my terrace." He waited a beat. He characterized it differently. "I have a brochure." "Yes." He mentioned marketing materials were distributed prematurely. People paid deposits. "That's outside our scope." "What's inside your scope?" "Building access, common areas, noise, occupancy, insurance compliance." "Good. None of those were approved by me." Paul lowered his voice. "Claire, I'm not taking a position in a marital disagreement." "That sentence is taking a position." He sighed. "Daniel is a registered resident. He can request access for household service. Not for a business. He says it's for removal. Then require him to list what's being removed and by whom. I can do that. And no vendor, client, event planner, caterer, florist, photographer, or prospective customer is allowed through the service lane on my authorization. I'll make a note." Not a note. An access restriction. Paul's keyboard clicked. "I'll send you the form." The form required my signature, proof that I was the titled owner, and a separate statement that any planned commercial use had been canceled. I scanned the purchase record from my files and sent everything before leaving for work. By the time I reached the hospital, the association had suspended the temporary service code attached to my unit. At 8:12, Daniel texted, "You locked me out of my own home?" I wrote back, "The apartment key works. Commercial access does not." At 8:14, "That is not what I asked." At 8:15, "You froze the household card." I turned my phone face down. Rita was waiting beside a pallet of surgical drapes with her glasses pushed into her hair. "You look terrible." "Thank you. I mean medically. I'm tired. Still counts." She handed me a manifest. 24 boxes had arrived labeled with the wrong department number, which was a kind of problem I understood. I found the purchase order, called receiving, moved the shipment, and corrected the routing code. No one argued that the boxes felt entitled to be somewhere else. At lunch, the preliminary inspection report arrived. Kenneth Ruiz had written it with dry precision. Applicant identified herself as venue operator and represented that owner consent had been obtained. Proposed occupancy exceeded what could safely pass through the service stairwell. Furniture placement restricted access to the terrace door. Food service and alcohol service had been discussed, but not authorized. Further review would require written ownership approval, building authorization, and proof of insurance. Attached were 12 photographs. Daniel's BMW appeared in 4. In the clearest image, his rear hatch stood open beside Laurel's van. The canvas bag with my brass tag rested on top of a box marked glassware. Daniel wasn't visible, but the photograph made his story about dropping off materials look like what it was: involvement disguised as proximity. I downloaded the report and sent a copy to Paul. He replied 20 minutes later, "Thank you." Daniel has clarified that Ms. Voss is removing materials only. I have approved one supervised pickup window tomorrow, 10:11 a.m. I would be at the hospital tomorrow. Daniel knew my schedule. When I got home, Laurel's boxes were gone from the living room. The sofa had been returned to its usual place, though one leg sat off the rug. Daniel was cooking onions in a skillet. He'd opened a bottle of wine and set 2 glasses on the counter. "I used the regular elevator," he said. "Before you accuse me of breaching the perimeter." "Did Laurel come upstairs?" "No." "Who took the boxes?" "I did." "Where?" "My shop." "So you moved her venue materials into the business whose insurance I pay." He turned down the burner. "Paid." "What?" "I got an email from the insurer. Your card was removed." "Yes." "You could have told me before the payment declined. You could have told me before my money launched Laurel House." His face sharpened. "Those charges were reimbursed." "After my salary covered them. For a few weeks. Without asking me. Everything is without asking you now. Apparently, I need written authorization to take a box out of the building where I live." "You needed written authorization to bring paying customers into it." He poured wine into 1 glass and drank without sitting down. "The card thing was meant to hurt me. It was meant to stop paying your expenses. Same result. You have a business account. A business account that's waiting on $30,000 in receivables. Then call your clients." "Do you think I haven't?" I almost apologized. The reflex rose cleanly, already shaped for use. I let it pass. Daniel saw that too. He turned off the stove. Mom's cleaning service called her. I canceled it. She thought there was a problem with the card. There was. It was mine. "You gave that to her for Christmas? I paid for 6 months. It's been 14. She depends on it. She has income. She can decide whether it matters enough to pay for." He stared at me with something close to disgust. "This is who you want to be?" I looked at the skillet between us. The onions were browning in one place and raw in another because he had stopped stirring them. "This is who I already was," I said. "You just preferred me when I was useful." He slept at his shop that night. Vivian called the next morning while I was reviewing a vendor contract. "I'll pay for my own cleaning," she said. "All right." "I'm not helpless." "I didn't say you were. You didn't have to cancel it to prove a point. I canceled it because I'm done paying bills I never agreed to keep paying." She was quiet. Then she said, "Daniel told me you shut down the project permanently." "Yes?" "He says Laurel could lose her business. Then she shouldn't have built it on my terrace. She had reason to believe you'd agreed." "Whose reason?" "Daniel's." "And that was enough for you?" I believed my son. It sounded less like a defense than an admission. "Did you sign something for Laurel?" A longer silence. "What kind of something?" she asked. "Anything saying I approved?" She asked me to write down what you said at Christmas. At Christmas, I said the terrace looked pretty with lights. You said we should use it more. For dinner. Daniel said you meant events. Daniel wasn't in the room. He was in the kitchen. He was fixing the ice maker. Vivian exhaled. "I wrote that you had expressed support for making better use of the space." "You wrote that yesterday?" "Laurel's clients are threatening her. She needed a record showing she didn't act recklessly. So you gave her one." I stated what I remembered. "No, you stated what Daniel needed you to remember." Her voice cooled. "I won't be spoken to like I'm senile." "I don't think you're senile." "Then accept that I understood you." "You understood exactly what you wanted." She hung up. The supervised pickup happened without me. Paul emailed that 6 containers, 2 rolling racks, and assorted display materials had left through the service entrance. No violation observed. That evening, the Terrace service code rejected my entry from the stairwell. Paul answered on the 3rd call. "It's a temporary code," he said. "The original was disabled during the pickup. You didn't send me the new one." "It went to all registered residents." "I'm a registered resident." He checked. Daniel had updated the household contact preferences at 10:43 that morning. Building notices now went to his email first. "I'm fixing it," Paul said. Why was he able to change that? He identified himself as your spouse and primary household contact. He isn't primary anything. I understand you're upset. I'm standing in a service stairwell locked out of the terrace attached to my condo. The door from your apartment still opens. That isn't the point. He gave me the new code and promised to restore me as the primary contact. Then he said carefully, "Daniel mentioned a separation may be developing. If so, management needs clear instructions that don't put staff between you." My stomach dropped. Did he say we were separated? He said this was a domestic dispute involving shared use. He created a fake venue. I have the report, Claire, but I also have a resident spouse stating that you approved a limited trial and withdrew after a personal conflict with Ms. Voss. A personal conflict? That was his wording. By the next afternoon, Laurel's website described the terrace as temporarily unavailable due to an internal ownership transition. An email sent to her clients blamed a jealous co-owner for last-minute compliance issues. I knew because Mara forwarded it to the building office, and Paul, more cautious now, forwarded it to me. Mara had included her deposit receipt and a short message. "I don't care what's happening in your marriage. I care that Laurel took $6,000 after telling us she owned the venue. She is still offering us the same date and says access will be restored." Below that was a screenshot of a new invitation, Laurel House Autumn. Showcase Sunday, 4 o'clock, private viewing by appointment. Sunday was my 12-hour inventory shift. I sent the invitation to Paul and Ruiz. Paul replied that no event had been authorized. Ruiz said he could add the advertisement to the file, but could not act on an event that had not happened. Daniel came home carrying an overnight bag while I was reading the replies. "You told Laurel she could hold a showcase Sunday." I told her management hadn't approved it. "She's telling clients access will be restored." "Then take it up with her. You're the site contact." "Not anymore." "You requested service entry for removal." "You changed the building account." "I corrected contact information for the household I live in." "You told Paul we're separating." He set the bag beside the guest room door. "Aren't we?" The question was so calm that it stripped the room of air. "I don't know," I said. He nodded as if I had confirmed something. That's what I told him. He went into the guest room and shut the door. The next morning, a woman named Serena Hall called my office. She owned the catering company whose logo appeared in the website photographs. Paul had given her my number after she arrived in the lobby asking for the owner. "Laurel owes me $4,800, she said. "I'm not affiliated with Laurel House." That's what I'm starting to understand. Serena had catered 2 tastings on my terrace and prepared proposals for 5 booked dates. Laurel had told her Daniel owned the property with his wife and handled family approval. She called him her partner, Serena said. "Business partner?" I assumed both. I gripped the edge of my desk. "Why?" Serena went quiet. "Because of the way they were together." "What way?" "I'm sorry, I thought you knew." She sent me an invoice, photographs of the tastings, and screenshots of Laurel's instructions. One message read, "Dan and I have family approval handled. His wife is nervous about strangers, so keep staff minimal until launch." Another said, "Use the service lane. Dan will leave the BMW there so you know you're at the right entrance." I forwarded everything to my private email. Then Kenneth Ruiz called. "I reviewed the full resolution file after your question about the brass item," he said. "There's a reflection in the vehicle glass you may want to see. The image arrived while we were still on the phone." Daniel stood behind the open hatch, carrying a box of Laurel House brochures. Reflected beside him was Laurel in his brown work jacket, one hand resting against his back. The timestamp showed 1:46 p.m., 14 minutes before I walked onto the terrace. The brass home tag gleamed from her canvas bag between them. There was my husband, my missing tag, Laurel's false venue materials, and the car he had lied about, all in one city photograph. Sunday's showcase invitation was open on my other screen. For 2 days, I had been trying to prevent the event. Looking at the photograph, I understood that prevention was still labor. It was still me making calls, correcting forms, warning vendors, protecting Daniel and Vivian and Laurel from the full weight of what they had chosen. I saved the image. Then I stopped trying to rescue Sunday. I forwarded the full resolution photograph to Paul with one sentence. "This is the resident who told you he was removing materials." Paul called within 5 minutes. "I've disabled all service access connected to Laurel House," he said. "If anyone arrives Sunday, the desk will turn them away." "Daniel is still a resident." "Yes." "He may tell you they're personal guests." "I can't prohibit him from having personal guests." 20 people carrying flower stands aren't personal guests." "No," Paul said. "They are not. I sent him Mara's receipt, Serena's invoice, the showcase invitation, and Laurel's messages about the service lane. Then I sent the ownership form again, signed and dated, stating that no one had permission to operate a business from my condo or terrace. I copied Ruiz. That was all. I didn't call Laurel. I didn't remind Vivian that the event lacked approval. I didn't ask Daniel what he planned to do. He had spent 3 days treating my intervention as the problem. Sunday would show him what my intervention had been preventing. Daniel came out of the guest room carrying a garment bag. "You're going to let people show up," he said. "I told the building they're not authorized." "You know Laurel hasn't canceled." "Yes. She says she can't. If she cancels, everyone demands refunds at once." "They should. She's already paid vendors. Serena says otherwise." His eyes narrowed. "You've been calling her vendors." "She called me." "Why?" "She wants $4,800. That's between her and Laurel." "Exactly." He laid the garment bag across the sofa. "You could let Sunday happen. 2 hours. No alcohol, no catering, just a tour. It would give Laurel time to move the bookings somewhere else." "She's still telling people she owns my terrace." She corrected the language. "She called me a jealous co-owner." "That email wasn't meant for you." I laughed. I couldn't help it. Daniel glanced toward the terrace. The lemon tree had dropped 3 leaves onto the tiles. "I'm trying to keep this from becoming ugly," he said. "You parked your car under an illegal venue sign and played highway sounds while you lied to me. We passed ugly on Tuesday." "It wasn't illegal." "Then why did you hide?" "I knew you'd react like this." That was the last little shelter he had built for himself. My reaction had traveled backward through time and caused his decisions. I looked at the garment bag. "Are you leaving?" "I have a Sunday installation." "In the blue button-down?" "It's a client meeting afterward." "With Laurel?" "No." "Are you going to the showcase?" He picked up the bag. "I haven't decided." "You have. You just haven't decided what to tell me." He went to his shop. My shift started before dawn Sunday. Rita arrived at 9 with coffee and found me counting orthopedic implants for the 2nd time. "You already did that, Rao," she said. "I know." "You wrote checked on it." "I know. Do you?" I put down the scanner. Rita handed me the coffee. "Go sit in the office for 5 minutes before you inventory the same knee until it becomes a hip." At 3:30, we closed the final discrepancy. One tray had been logged twice after a canceled procedure. Rita watched me sign the report. "You can go," she said. "My shift ends at 4. So steal 30 minutes from the hospital. It has more than you." My phone had stayed silent in my locker. When I turned it on, there were 11 missed calls. 4 from Vivian, 3 from Paul, 2 from Daniel, 1 from Serena, 1 from a number I didn't know. Paul had left a message at 3:52. "Claire, we have a situation in the lobby. I've denied access, but Ms. Voss is insisting you approve the showcase. Daniel is on his way. Please call me." I drove home in my inventory clothes with my badge still clipped to my collar. A florist's van blocked half the front drive. Two men stood beside a rolling hedge wall while Paul argued with Laurel through the glass lobby doors. Couples clustered around the seating area holding glossy folders. A rental company had left 6 cocktail tables on the sidewalk. Vivian stood beside a narrow welcome table decorated with white roses. She had worn the navy dress I bought her for Daniel's business award dinner. She was holding a tray of sparkling water. For 1 second, Tuesday repeated itself so perfectly that I wondered if I had changed anything. Then Vivian saw me. She set down the tray. Paul opened the lobby door. "Claire, thank you." Laurel pivoted toward me. She wore a black suit, red loafers, and the canvas bag with my brass tag clipped to its zipper. "You need to tell him this is a private gathering," she said. "It isn't. It's invitation only. It's an advertised showcase for a venue you don't own." Mara stepped out from behind a column. Her partner was with her, arms folded. "Laurel told us the ownership issue was resolved," Mara said. "I didn't tell her that." Laurel's jaw flexed. "Daniel did." The elevator opened behind us. Daniel came out in the blue shirt, carrying no tools, no garment bag, and no evidence of a Sunday installation. He stopped when he saw me. Paul moved between him and the elevator controls. "I need to be clear. These guests and vendors cannot go upstairs." Daniel held up both hands. "They're here for a private gathering." The invitation says venue showcase. It's informational. "It has catering demonstrations listed," Paul said. The caterer canceled. Serena near the lobby desk said, "I canceled because I haven't been paid." Daniel looked at her with open irritation. "Why are you here?" "To collect my serving equipment. Laurel told me it was being stored upstairs." "It was removed Friday," Paul said. Serena turned to Laurel. "You told me it was still in the venue." "It's at Daniel's shop," Laurel said. Every face moved toward Daniel. He rubbed his forehead. "This is logistics. It has nothing to do with Claire." "Everything you stored at your shop was purchased on our household card," I said, "so it has a little to do with me." Laurel gave me a thin smile. "Every charge was reimbursed, after my salary covered it." "That sounds like a marital accounting issue." "You keep finding elegant names for using other people's things." Vivian came around the welcome table. "Claire, can we please go upstairs and talk privately?" "No." Her eyes flicked toward the couples. "This doesn't need to happen here. It's happening here because you invited them here. I was told the building had approved a limited gathering." "By Daniel?" She looked at him. Daniel said, "Mom, not now." Laurel opened her tote and removed a folder. "I have a written statement from a family representative confirming prior consent." She handed it to Paul. Vivian's signature sat at the bottom of a paragraph describing my supposed enthusiasm for using the terrace for family and community events. Laurel had added a typed header, "Owner Authorization History." Paul read it once. "Mrs. Bennett isn't the owner." "Family representative," Laurel repeated. "Based on what authority?" Vivian's face had gone gray. Laurel pointed to Daniel. "He designated her." Paul looked at Daniel. "You cannot designate someone to authorize commercial use of property you don't own." Daniel said, "Claire and I are married," and the association record identifies Claire as the titled owner. Even if that were different, commercial events require approval you did not request. One of the couples near the sofa began filming with a phone. Another asked Laurel when refunds would be issued. Laurel ignored them. "Daniel represented that the terrace was a marital asset under joint control," she said. Vivian confirmed Claire's verbal approval. "I acted in good faith." Vivian turned slowly toward her. "You said I was the family manager. You hosted tours because Daniel asked me, and you signed the statement because you said clients would sue Daniel if I didn't." Daniel stepped closer. "Mom, stop talking." The room sharpened around that sentence. Vivian looked at him as if he had slapped the tray out of her hands. "You told me Claire agreed," she said. "I told you Claire had been supportive of the idea. You said she was embarrassed about money and didn't want to discuss it." I stared at him. Daniel's face reddened. "That's not what I said." You said she would pretend she hadn't agreed because she hated looking dependent. He had made my competence sound like vanity and used it to explain why my consent could not be trusted. Vivian gripped the edge of the welcome table. You told Laurel I managed the terrace because Claire was too busy. I was trying to give you a role. A role doing what? No one answered. The unknown number called my phone again. Kenneth Ruiz stood outside the glass doors, watching the florist's van block the drive. I let him in. I received a complaint about commercial loading, he told Paul. He raised his camera and photographed the cocktail tables, the sign, the welcome table, and the guests holding Laurel House folders. Laurel stepped in front of him. This is a private appointment. Ruiz lowered the camera. Ms. Voss, the city has already documented your proposed commercial operation at this address. The property representative approved it. Which representative? She pointed at Daniel. Ruiz looked at him. Mr. Bennett told me Tuesday that he didn't request the inspection. I didn't. But you were present. I came to remove my car. Ruiz glanced at me. Would you like me to show them the photograph? Yes. Paul connected his laptop to the lobby display used for building notices. Ruiz opened the full-resolution image. Daniel's copper BMW filled the screen. Laurel's van stood beside it. Boxes of brochures and linens filled the open hatch. Reflected in the glass, Daniel carried venue materials, while Laurel leaned close in his work jacket. The brass tag hung from her bag. Mara walked toward the screen. That was the day of our inspection. Her partner pointed to the timestamp. 14 minutes before Claire arrived. Serena said Daniel was at both tastings too. Laurel crossed her arms. Of course he was. He was my partner. Business partner? I asked. Her eyes met mine. Daniel said, don't. Laurel laughed softly. There was no humor in it. Now you want discretion? Laurel, you told me the marriage was over except for paperwork. The lobby seemed to tilt, though nothing moved. Daniel looked at me. Claire, we had problems before her. That was his defense, not denial. Sequence. Laurel's voice shook now. He said the condo was effectively his because he had paid into the household for 8 years. He said you would leave once you understood he wanted a different life. You told me you were leaving her, she said to him. You told your mother Claire had approved the venue. You told Claire I was a client. Is there anyone here you spoke to like an adult? Vivian sank into one of the lobby chairs. Daniel reached for my arm. I stepped back. I was going to tell you, he said. When? I didn't know how. You knew how to play traffic sounds. His hand dropped. The couples gathered around Laurel with questions about deposits. Serena asked for the address of Daniel's shop so she could retrieve her equipment. The florist rolled the hedge wall back toward the van. Paul removed the Laurel House sign from its stand and placed it beside Laurel's tote. Vivian sat very still, looking at the statement she had signed. I thought I was helping my son, she said. I know. She looked up, searching my face for absolution. I didn't give it to her. Laurel lifted her canvas bag. The brass tag swung from the zipper. I caught it in my hand. This belongs to me. She looked down. Daniel gave it to me. Of course he did. He said it was from his first home. It was. For once, Daniel had told a version of the truth. Laurel unclipped the tag and placed it in my palm. The metal was warm. She left with the couples following her, demanding dates and refund terms. Daniel tried to go after her, but Serena stopped him with questions about her equipment. Vivian remained in the lobby until the roses on the welcome table began to wilt. Daniel moved his things out over the next 2 weeks. He took the record player, his clothes, and the cabinet samples stacked beneath the guest bed. He tried apologies, anger, nostalgia, and finally, numbers. Laurel's refunds, his shop rent, and the unpaid vendors could not become my emergency, simply because he arranged them in a spreadsheet. Vivian paid for her own cleaning. We spoke when necessary. She never asked to host on the terrace again. By spring, the lemon tree had survived. New leaves opened where the dry ones had fallen, bright and soft against the glass. I did not return the brass tag to its green ribbon. I attached it to my key ring. That evening, I watered the tree until the soil darkened around its roots. The tag rested against my palm as I turned the key, stepped inside, and locked the glass door behind me.